nothing heroic about raging for 3 hours straight. Yo, what's up? It's someone that's no one, and welcome back to today's report. Today's report was sent in by Minne, where he took 4 grams of dry magic mushrooms. And here's the full report details. Alright, here's a pretty dope mushroom trip. This is Minne's second report he sent in, with his first coming years ago now, with a 1P LSD report. Make sure to go check that out before this, but this time he has a story of a 4-gram shroom trip. He goes into detail with this, and he sets himself up pretty well, but regardless, he's met with an unexpected emotion that dominates his trip, and that's anger, or rage. It's not always common, but things like this can happen. I'd say just about any kind of emotion or expression can be achieved through psychedelics. But normally, there tends to be a reasoning or theme that surrounds it, and you'll just see what that is here with this story. So I'm sure you'll really enjoy this one. Without further ado, let's dive right into this. Rage. Rage is what I got, but it wasn't what I ordered. Well, the mushroom seems to have its own will. For a long time, I wanted to try the McKenna method, the heroic dose. To set the stage, I've been going through a transformation in my life in the recent years, especially in the last few months, learning about psychology, how childhood experiences can govern our social behavior due to traumas and social conditioning, causing deep ingrained behavioral patterns and unconscious convictions. It made me realize a lot of things about myself and also made me have more compassion for myself and others. I realized I have a deep belief that I'm not good enough, that I'm weird. This led me to being a shy and cautious person in my expressions, and to a whole lot of other problems. Realizing that, however, gave me the opportunity to work on that. Unfortunately, I am a very impatient person, and the process of changing deep unconscious beliefs is hard work and painfully slow. I am a big advocate for psychedelic drugs. They enrich my life massively, and I believe in their therapeutic potential. At my darkest point in life, a massive dose of 15 grams of golden teacher truffles kicked my ass from deep depression to blissful hopefulness in the course of 4 hours. From what I've gathered from research, psychedelics enable the brain to achieve a state of neuroplasticity, allowing these deep ingrained neural pathways, for example, from childhood or depressive behavioral patterns and trauma, to open up and make new connections. The most effective of healing seems to be with a trained therapist and follow-ups, integration. Unfortunately, where I live, the therapeutic community and the law hasn't caught up to the science yet. I also don't have the money to go on an expensive retreat, so I gotta work it out by myself. For a long time, I wanted to try out the much talked about heroic dose, introduced by Terence McKenna. So I decided to try the method with the intention to rewire my brain towards having more self-worth. I assumed a high, heroic dose will loosen my newer pathways enough to be able to rewire them in a more healthy way. How? I don't know really, but considering my past experiences, I entrusted the substance to do its work on me. Set and setting is crucial. I was alone by myself in my apartment. I rolled down the window shutters and put in earplugs. No music. In case I needed emotional support, I had my girlfriend ready to call and another friend. Regarding the set, I was generally pretty confident and optimistic, but like always when I do psychedelics, a bit nervous. Also, I recently got rejected from the university where I applied. This had my mood alternating between sad and angry/annoyed in the recent weeks because it felt with my future plans. However, I felt like it wasn't too bad. I still felt pretty okay and content in general. So I thought. Besides working on my self-worth, I also wanted to think about my future and what I should do a little bit, and if possible, to get rid of some unhealthy habits of mine. Psychedelics are sometimes described as non-specific amplifiers, meaning they take whatever you bring with into the experience and amplify it. Knowing that still, I didn't expect what was about to happen. McKenna is a big guy, 6'2" therefore. And because I didn't try the specific batch of mushrooms I bought before, I decided to go for just 4 grams. I'm a little taller than 5'8". I sat in the dark and did some stretching, waiting for the ingested mushrooms to kick in. It took a while. I'd say after 1 hour, the state I was in was definitely very trippy. I was laying in the bed and saw tunnel-like whitish shapes, changing as fast as my thoughts were changing. Additionally, there were chaotic acoustic hallucinations. Nothing comprehensible, just weird noisy sounds and peeping. What also set in was the first feeling of dissociation. My body felt weird. This state felt kind of familiar due to previous DMT trips, so I wasn't anxious at all, despite the experience being kind of annoying. I knew I just had to wait until I can get out of the inside of this noisy vacuum cleaner tube that my body was stuck in. That's the image best describing how I felt. I was pretty gone already, so it was hard to remember my objective, reframing my self-image. Whenever I sliver back into awareness, I try to go there, but it would turn out through the whole trip, it's not really in my control. What is to come? While I was stuck in the tube, the visuals formed. Through the chaotic fluctuations, the silhouette of a mantis-like insect. I felt like it asked me what I was doing here. I said I want to work on my self-worth, then went away. I was wondering a bit about the creature, and my mind played with the idea of the insect maybe trying to help me. Through the visuals, I saw its shadow moving, looking for something, like opening the unconscious drawers of my mind in search for the root of my problem. My imagination went wild. Unfortunately, this wouldn't be the theme that would continue on during the trip. As it turned out, the mushrooms had different plans with me. I left the shifted stuck vacuum cleaner space, and a memory of one of my brothers as a young child came to my mind. Maybe the insect opened the wrong drawer. LOL. My brother has an identical twin brother, and the weird thing is, though they had the same genetics, since I can remember, I was 5 when they were born, they were similar in most ways, but also from birth had differences in their behavior. The twin that appeared on my trip always was a little bit more impulsive, and he used to have these long emotional outbursts. He used to cry sometimes for 20 minutes or so, even though he hadn't had any more tears left. This image threw me in a very intensive sadness. I felt a lot of compassion for my young brother, and I started bawling my eyes out. I empathized with him, thinking in that moment, the world is so cruel, and how he needed someone, like my mother used to do, to soothe him and give him love. I think this is where my trip took its direction towards its main theme: anger. Why? Why does my brother have to feel this pain? I asked the universe, feeling for paper towels in the dark to clean my nose. I didn't see shit, and I had no sense of orientation. When I opened my eyes, there was no difference compared to what I was seeing closed-eyed. The visual stayed, and I think that's the most interesting aspects of tripping in the dark. Everything comes from within, and so came from underneath bubbling anger, amplified 100-fold, expressing itself in the most impulsive, animalistic way. I felt very primal. For the next 3 hours, I'd be fluctuating between blind rage, what I call queer rage with a pinch of sadness, and disappointment in between. As I was feeling for the paper towels, which I purposely placed next to the yoga mat before the trip, I was overcome with a very impulsive burst of rage, making angry faces, asking why a lot, growing like an angry primate, and cussing with a burning passion. I felt like an animal ready to fight something. Every time these rage bursts took possession of my body, I forgot I was looking for paper towels to clean my snot-filled nose. I saw it as a challenge, and so it took a long-ass time for me to find them in the dark. The impotent blind rage felt very instinctive. It had no direct cause attributed to in the moment, though I knew it had to be my anger about the rejection lying underneath. I weltered in anger on my yoga mat for the main part of the trip, and my brain started to explain my feelings. So I envisioned all the stuff in the world that's fucking me up, like the exploitative nature of capitalism, the violence and oppression caused by division, the destruction of Earth's ecosystems, the utter lack of empathy and a vision in the world. all made concrete with visuals and thoughts that match my feelings. This is what I mean by clear anger, righteous anger, if you will, though I'm not too keen on using religious terminology. The clear anger was often followed by the feeling of sorrow, pity, and desperation, leaving me feeling powerless. Why? What for? I asked all the time, and I never got an answer, which made me angry again. This trip I really realized how close connected anger and sorrow is. Usually people who do psychedelics like to take a lesson and some kind of personal transformation from their mind-bending endeavors. For me, as I'm writing this 3 days later, it has not bettered my self-conception much, but I still get these short anger bursts, which I also already got before going into the trip. So I would say it didn't really do much for me, besides giving me an absurd story to tell and a laugh about. I don't feel like a hero. I don't feel like at the end of that I has accomplished something great. I don't think the experience was bad for me either. It was definitely interesting, but not a lot of fun, though I had some laughs in between. I had some minor epiphanies between my anger bursts, like the time you give your friends being the true measure of affection and friendship, or that I need to slow down a bit in my everyday life, paying more attention instead of cramming the day with things that distract me from the details of what's going on. Another thing that came up during the trip was my future. I didn't come to any conclusion about what I should do from now on, but I had this certain feeling that I should stay in the city where I live, because I have made friends here. I just found a nice apartment with my fiance and it's close to my family. Previously, I always thought I need to leave the city because it's quite conservative and expensive to live out there. But now, I'm gonna have to rethink that. If I want to be generous to the mushroom for giving me all this rage, I might say turning sorrow into clear rage might be a tool I could use in the future to get active and change shit. But that remains to be tested. Next time, I might need to be in a better mood in general, or take the true heroic 5 gram dose. Though it not being particularly fun, it still was an interesting experience, and I want to do it again. After the waves of rage mellowed, I danced a bit in the dark, thinking about Alan Watts' yin yang metaphor to see life as a dance with ups and downs, rather than a war that's to be lost or won, and it felt good. I realized I had been raging for 3 hours straight, and I laughed about the absurdity of it. I wanted to use the rest of the trip to go back to my original goal. I went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror for a while, but I couldn't find the roots of my inferiority complex. At least I could give my inner child an imaginary hug, and saw myself as attractive and lovable while smiling into the mirror. I called my fiance, ate a ton of beans and rice she prepared for me previously, and went to bed exhausted as fuck, falling asleep instantaneously. Next day, I felt very good, but still had a little anger left. Didn't stop me though from going to a lake and enjoying myself. In the evening, I went to a techno party, and I had fun dancing passionately with a little bit of rage.